So, like Oksana, I stand here for the voices of many of Sasha's American friends, and I just want to share some of their thoughts that they sent towards you, towards the family today, remembering Sasha. Myler Wilkinson from Canada that Oksana mentioned and that we know. Myler says, I will think of Sasha always as he was. Humane, brilliant, warm-hearted, complex, a friend. He was an artist, never a dry intellectual, but rather a Russian troubadour. He could conjure up the spirits. He will live as long as we live and remember him. Claude Clayton Smith, who was an old friend of Sasha's from the very beginning. Sasha translated his book on an American Indian chief. Claude said, I would say to Sasha and his family the same thing that Chief Big Eagle said when he left the earth. When you leave, I will say, Onye, which means until our paths cross again. Joe Barrera. Joseph Barrera is a Mexican-American scholar, activist, organizer, a good friend of Sasha's from Colorado. Joe said Sasha was an expert in Chicano literature. He acquired a vast knowledge of this body of unique writing, and he saw it as a valid aspiration of a marginalized and mostly powerless people. And he did this while he was teaching in Moscow, far away from the center of Chicano culture. I salute Professor Vащенко for his accomplishment and count him as a valuable ally in the struggle to create true equality for all people. Peter Nabokov, who is a scholar of American Indian history and culture, professor in world arts and culture at the University of California in Los Angeles, and yes, a distant relative of Vladimir, was a friend of Sasha's, and he said Sasha had such a warm and engaging and inclusive personality. He made an absolutely unique service to bridge Native American and Native Siberian culture and to communicate mutual understanding to a wider world through his teaching and his publications. He will be really missed. Mac, Hunter Cole, old friend from the University of Mississippi. Farewell, Alexander. Thank you for blessing me with a legacy of friendship for the rest of my days. You will be vital and happy in my memory, an excellent man of brilliant mind, exemplary man of sterling character, a compassionate man with the kindest of hearts. Hereafter, whenever I summon up the past, you will remain a vivid presence. I send deep condolence and love to your family. A young colleague that Sasha met only a few years ago, the last time he taught with me at New Mexico State University, Brian Rourke. First impressions, he says, what a wonderful man he was. Generous, warm, charismatic, friendly, funny, earnest, committed. I am personally grateful to him for some wise advice and strong encouragement he gave me, especially the first time when I was just starting as a young, beginning professor. He pulled me aside. Me, first-year professor, completely unprepared for a visiting important professor from Moscow to be talking to me as if I were an old friend. I never met anybody who could speak so warmly, enthusiastically, and yet so seriously about the importance of teaching and of research and of writing as a service to humanity. And last words I want to share from someone else. This is from N. Scott Momaday, the Kyo Indian author, the Pulitzer Prize winner and UNESCO International Artist for Peace. Sasha translated Scott's works into Russian. Momaday was the first U.S. Fulbright scholar to come to the Soviet Union in 1974, and Sasha was his guide then. Scott writes, "I share with you a profound sadness. I was, of course, expecting the news. Nonetheless, it came as a great blow. Last evening, I spoke to an international congress of Native people, archivists, librarians, museum professionals, all in the business of preserving Native culture, more than 500 people. And I spoke at some length about Sasha. He was a graduate student at Moscow State University in 1974 when we met. And from that time on, he was an important and beloved person in my life. He accompanied me on all of my travels in Russia on some 8 different occasions, and he was an incomparable guide, interpreter, and companion. He was an excellent scholar and a lover of books. One of my great satisfactions, and I hope and trust one of his, is that in his last days he prepared the dialogue of poems between Yuri Viela, Niemiec poet, and me. Of those times when he came to the U.S., he was a great boost to my spirit. I was proud to show him some of my world, as he showed me so much of his. Once I took him to an American college football game, at which there were all these screaming fanatics, and he sat totally bored and bewildered. But in his fashion, he endured it with eminent goodwill. He was a very gracious man, a man of integrity, honesty, compassion, intelligence, and learning. Let us grieve, but let us also find joy in having known him." From Scott. I just want to add a couple of words. First of all, this gentleman whom I do not know spoke of Sasha as Payush Chilibek. He really was a man of songs. I know him. I think it's really appropriate that we are here at a table. This is where Sasha would like to be, at a table with friends to celebrate. I remember the times at the dacha with Dima making cloth. Times when he was at our place. He loved to celebrate because he loved people. Every person who met Sasha felt like he or she was a special person, because Sasha treated them like they were special people. A friend of ours taught me a new Russian word. Thinking about Sasha, she said, "On ritsarski человек." That's true, he really was. And he was a singing person. I will leave you with one thing apropos his humor. Sasha was a very excellent teacher, as many of the students and colleagues know. And I can't make a toast with an empty glass. And once, when he visited us in New Mexico, up in the northern part of New Mexico, among the Hispanic communities, Sasha was doing some serious research. And about 1 o'clock in the morning, after some serious research. Он сказал, надо посошок. Наши мексиканцы ничего не знают, что это посошок. Он сказал, есть американский фраз, one for the road. Хорошо, посошок. После этого они сказали, вы знаете, это очень замечательно, обычно. Пойдем опять еще одно посошок. Вот, that's a good teacher. Саша.